In today's video, we will be solving quadratic equations by factoring. Well, what is a quadratic? Remember that a quadratic expression is one in which the degree is 2. So here we see examples of quadratic expressions, and down here we see examples of quadratic equations. And we know that the degree in the equation is 2, here and here. So what we're going to do today is solve quadratic equations by factoring. So we must remember our factoring patterns, and having your foldable out will help you to remember your factoring patterns. Let's go over the zero product property first, which is a property that we will use to solve our quadratic equations. The zero product property says, let's let A and B be real numbers or either algebraic expressions. And if A times B equals 0, then what that means is either that A is equal to 0 or B is equal to 0. So this means that if the product of two factors is 0, then at least one of those two factors has to be a 0. For example, x minus 2 is a factor and x plus 3 is a factor. So if x minus 2 times x plus 3 equals 0, that means that either x minus 2 is equal to 0 or x plus 3 is equal to 0. Now, let's go to how to solve quadratic equations by factoring. The first thing that we need to do is make sure that our quadratic equation is set equal to 0. Then we will factor one side of the equation by using our factoring patterns. Next, we will use the zero product property, which means we will set each factor equal to 0, and then we will solve the two equations that result. And as always, we want to do a check. So let's look at this first example. X squared plus 3x minus 18 equals 0 is a quadratic equation. Based on our steps, the first thing that we want to do is factor the left side. So when we factor that, we get x plus 6 times x minus 3 equals 0. And remember our factoring patterns. This is a trinomial where a is equal to 1. So we give the factors for x squared, which is x, and then we list the factors of negative 18 that will add to be a positive 3, which will be plus 6 and negative 3. So therefore we factor it to be x plus 6 times x minus 3 and then equals 0. Now what we want to do is set each of these factors equal to 0. So that means that x plus 6 equals 0 or x minus 3 equals 0. And once we set each factor equal to 0, which is the zero product property at work, then we will solve each equation. So to solve the first equation, you subtract 6 from both sides. And to solve this equation, you add 3 to both sides. And so we will discover that x is negative 6 or either x is 3. And we want to check our solutions back in the original to see if these are really the solutions. So to check, we would take the negative 6 and everywhere we see an x, we would replace it with negative 6. And then we would work out the left side and see if it's equal to the right side. Then we would take the 3, replace it in the equation for x, and we would work out the left side and then the right side to see if both are 0. In this example, we do have a quadratic equation, but we notice that this equation is not set equal to 0. So we are going to have to move some terms around so that we do have an equation set equal to 0. So that means that we need to move this 3t and this negative 5 to the left side so that we will have an equation set equal to 0. Now, by subtracting 3t, we get the negative 23. By adding the negative 20t, and by adding 5, we get the positive 50 equal to 0. So now we have a quadratic equation that's set equal to 0. Now we can factor. So we want to factor out a GCF of 2, and that will leave this. Now we want to get rid of the 2 by dividing on both sides. Why are we dividing? Because it says 2 times this trinomial. So the opposite of times or multiplication is division. So when we divide both sides by 2, we're left with this. Now we're going to continue factoring. So we're going to factor this trinomial, and when we factor that trinomial, we'll get t minus 5 times t minus 5, and we can write it like this. So now we're going to set each factor equal to 0, and then we solve for t. And t is equal to 5. And of course, to check our solution, we would go back up to our original equation, and everywhere we see a t, we would replace that t with 5. We will then work out the left side, then work out the right side, and see if the answer we get on the left is the same as what we get on the right. In this next example, we have 3x minus 6 equals x squared minus 10. Pause the video, and then you try to solve this quadratic equation. Now, the first thing we need to do is set this equation equal to 0. And when we do that, we get x squared minus 3x minus 4. We move the 3x over here, and we move the negative 6 over here. Now we're going to factor each side. So when you factor that, you should have gotten x minus 4 times x plus 1. And now we're going to set each of those factors equal to 0, and then solve those two equations. And we get x equals 4 or x equals negative 1, and as always, check your solutions. If you have any questions, please make sure that you write those questions down, and at the next class meeting, we will answer any questions that you have.